Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Tourist. My name is Tom Jordan. I am your host. I am joined tonight by my team. Well, not my entire team. Sam Bean is regrettably still off on assignment, which is exciting. He'll be getting back to us soon, so still exciting stuff. I probably shouldn't refer to him as my team as well. Get very upset if you get too possessive over them. But I am joined by Dani Magellan. Say hello.
Hello.
Stolen your gag from you there.
I know, I'm upset.
Apologies. Joined as ever by paranormal expert Ross Andrews.
Hello.
And tonight we have a special guest.
And a phone message.
Who even got
contacting us via Skype.
A game show-esque introduction coming down out of the audience to join us here on stage ready for Wheel of Fortune. We have the delectable Matthew Ferriman.
All right.
Woo! Hey! Yeah, woo. So a slight break from format tonight. We're going to get to Matthew in a little bit. But of course we're going to start with myself. Once again, I'm going to be presenting to you.
Before you start, have you found any sort of literature or anything that you've
I bet
drawn?
he's been doing some research from a book.
I think
I have.
so.
I'm old school. I could use the internet, but I like to do the groundwork.
It's very hard to turn the pages on the internet for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
It's not illustrated quite as
No, they're not, and
quite as innocently.
And it doesn't have that lovely old book smell either when you're turning. Well, you can get a candle that smells like that, but it's just not the same. So, and I'm going to start tonight by pointing out that this book is illustrated rather marvellously by Kim Blundell.
Just in case no one heard the last 3 podcasts that you mentioned this on.
And written, of course, by team favourite, or at least my favourite, Peter Eldon.
I'm not sure. We could have a competition at this point to say, can anyone guess what book it is?
Hi, Pete.
Matt's now sat there going, what are they talking
Yeah.
about?
Matt, let me.
This is the only book Tom has ever read.
Let me introduce you. I haven't even read it. It was read to me as a child, and it's I've just memorised it. So tonight, Matthew, let me introduce you to Amazing Spooks and Mysteries.
I'm excited.
I'm glad you're excited. I'm pretty excited.
You look excited.
And tonight I'm going to chat to you about an exciting tale. This particular tale is set in Paris. It happened in Paris, allegedly, where a star tightrope act had decided that against doctors' orders he was going to continue to do his act that evening. He'd actually spent a considerable amount of time in hospital, several weeks in hospital, following an accident on the high wire in which his partner had been killed. He himself had caused some serious damage to his ribs. They were encased in tape. His arm was still heavily bandaged, but he was determined to follow the old show business tradition of the show must go on. Now,
So what act is he?
so he's a tightrope walker.
Oh,
tightrope walker.
Okay.
Wow.
So, rather unsurprisingly, he gets to doing the act, and he finds just the climb alone pretty painful. He's determined to do it, so he manages to get himself up to the rope, and he starts to walk across. It's described here as each step having been more painful than the last, and he started to falter when he reached the halfway point. Clear to the audience at this point that the ascent and then the attempt at the act itself had started to prove too difficult. Now, it's at this point that people became aware of another figure high up on the wire. The other figure then helped to steady the gentleman who was faltering on the tightrope, and he made it across to the other side, got to the little platform balcony thing, turned around, and the figure had vanished. It was at this point, as everything started to run through his head, that he realised that the figure who had helped him was none other than his partner from the act who had been killed 4 weeks earlier.
Oh, so it wasn't a romantic partner, it was his acrobatic partner.
It was his acrobatic partner.
Who he knew well enough not to recognise when he saw him first.
One assumes that he was being helped and focusing on not dying.
But he is halfway up a ladder and in lots of pain. I think if I was halfway up a ladder and suddenly felt someone helping me that wasn't supposed to be there, I may have turned around and gone...
Like looked at them, yeah.
I mean, I could play my role as the skeptic and just say, I think if you're in a lot of pain and you're doing a tightrope act and you feel like you're going to die, there's a fair chance that you're going to see all sorts of different things.
So is it the audience that saw it, or he...
No, I think it makes it sound like that at points, but no, actually, yeah. So many others Many others did, in fact, recognise the partner as Paul Deschamps. I'm appalling with French pronunciation.
As who?
Paul Deschamps.
Paul the chap.
Paul Deschamps, who had been killed in this accident.
Was he the ghost of the health and safety officer that worked there, maybe, possibly?
Come back to do another risk assessment.
Even audience members recognised
So
him.
yeah, according to some details at the end, the packed audience had indeed witnessed the spectacle, apparently, of a ghost saving the life of his former partner. So it wasn't just him, it was in actual fact the audience members, and they were the ones responsible for recognising. There you are. That makes it watertight. There's nothing that the science snake can
your
do.
Research book. Sorry, your many bits of research that you do is that they just leave that tantalising sort of thing. What happened to the figure? Did it sort of walk down a ladder and walk out? Did it disappear in midair? Did it? We've no idea.
I mean, the suggestion here is that it simply vanished. I mean, it's tricky. This is to some extent. I think there's a little bit of enjoyment in books like this of creating a sort of dramatic effect. That said, I mean,
Rennie just turned up for his appearance fee.
I think probably
he was owed. Yeah, had to pick up his check.
He's like, I'm dead. Come on, I'm not doing this sort of thing for too small a fee. That said, I mean, certainly Ross will be added to this. I mean, a lot of the stories I've read, there doesn't tend to be much more detail, and I would warrant, again, playing the skeptic, that there's a whole load of kind of different stuff going on here.
The further you go back with stories, the more myth and legend gets attached to it. A story like this, for example, quite often starts off with a story. Somebody was halfway up a ladder, nearly fell off, felt like somebody helped them back onto the ladder.
Sure.
Yeah, and then that gets a sort of a game of Chinese whispers where somebody then says, "Oh, they're the ghost of somebody helped him back on the ladder." Then the next person who tells it, and the audience saw the ghost of his, and so on. Looking at that story from a purely skeptical research point of view, the likelihood is he was up a ladder, nearly fell off, and didn't. He probably reported saying, "I felt like I was helped by my dead partner," and then that it sort of becomes a big story. I'm not saying that didn't happen.
Yeah, sure. I'm probably more likely to support the idea that it didn't happen, but an audience member you could imagine could quite very easily say, "Oh, it looked like he'd been helped by somebody." It was almost like he'd been helped by, as if his partner had intervened, and he's going. It's almost
finishes the act.
He finishes it, yeah.
Because to me, that would have been the whole show would have finished at that point if everybody had seen a ghost.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, no.
The audience would have gone, "Oh my god, that would have been the end of the show."
And what year does it say? What
it
year
doesn't.
this is?
No, it doesn't. But I can't help. I can't really ignore also the fact that you're talking about a guy who was apparently in an extreme amount of pain.
Yeah.
So you're already under the. I mean, I genuinely can't believe the show must go on or not. I mean, 4 weeks after his partner dies during this same act, he decides he's going to go on 4 weeks later.
He's probably going to pay the rent.
Well, yeah, maybe, maybe he can't get the time off. Who knows? Well, maybe he's contracted, and it says somewhere, he's on a high rope. Maybe there's things in there that suggest,
his own sick note for 3 weeks.
Yeah, somebody dies. You've got to carry on. You just got to expect that kind of thing.
But then also, seeing as though this is show business, you don't know that it's not a story that someone's just made up.
Yes, sure.
And the person making it up might be someone who's in charge somewhere. Because any publicity is
because
good publicity.
They've just lost a member of their circus.
But you can come and see his ghost for an extra £5 a ticket.
Yeah, don't worry, he's fine.
For me, excuse me. For me, if there's any truth to it at all, the reality is there's a guy who's been through an immense trauma. He's doing an act which provides an incredible amount of pressure anyone to the person who's performing it, and he's in an immense amount of pain.
Now, one theory is that being in pain or being under stress and being all that actually alters the way you're thinking, in the same way that people say children can see ghosts and so on, because that part of the brain hasn't shut down saying, no, you can't see that, it's not real. The brain has gone through a particular trauma, so it's using different bits of the brain, and it's maybe opening back up those sections that can see spooks and so on.
Sure.
So people under extreme stress or who are drunk or whatever are using a different part of the brain, and they may actually be seeing the ghosts that are there.
Yeah.
And in reality, we're not seeing it because our brains are functioning.
Yeah.
So there is a theory that we get drunk at a ghost hunt and we might start seeing some stuff.
which I love. I mean, I love that is
Fucking
that could
drunk.
be a thing.
yeah, same. I'm happy with that.
I love even as a skeptic that I really want to be be great. Solved. That is the thing for me. I mean, it's really tricky. Again for me, it's a lot of pain. He's probably borderline hallucinating, but I love that. But that there's maybe this idea out there somewhere that it's opening out something that's allowing that kind of.
It's not dissimilar from one of those age-old tales of. It's usually set in America, and it's usually a mechanic who is under a car when it falls on top of him, screams for help, and then the person lifting the car trying to help him sees someone else, and that other person helps them, and they lift the car together.
But actually they've done
they've
it
by themselves.
Yeah.
They're able to lift that all by themselves. But the adrenaline's pumping, and then they're so stressed they see something that justifies to themselves that they can lift this car.
Yeah.
Tom does a lot of research from one book.
Yes.
You do your research from The Incredible Hulk.
You're not wrong. You're not far off.
I think that word justifies is really important. The idea that the mind is trying to justify something that it can't readily explain. And I think if you look further and further back in time, when people were more superstitious and the science snake was less able to explain phenomena and goings on, there you get to a point where it's much easier to just kind of fictionalize it. It's much easier to go, oh, there was a presence there, or there was something there, or something interfered. Whereas now we're sort of less and less likely to do that, because we go, well, this happened because of atmospheric pressure, or this happened because of adrenaline, or this happened because
science has
of...
got to a point now where it's actually easier to believe that magic did something than quantum physics did stuff. You just go, oh, magic-y. Well, Doctor Who, it's timey-wimey. And that's the explanation. They just go, yeah, fine, it's magic.
I mean, there are a variety of different stories, aren't there, about a ghost appearing, or a spirit appearing, or a loved one appearing who's not really there and helping out. But I think there's that definite sense that under severe pressure or emotional trauma or physical trauma, the mind is going to do all sorts of things to fill in and justify. And also in terms of morale, if you inside your head can tell yourself that so and so appeared, so and so who was going to appear to help you, that's going to do a huge amount in terms of. Even if the mind's tricking you into being brave.
Going back to that story, if the story comes from the man himself, in that situation, he probably would have been helped before by his partner. So his brain might just go, oh, well, this is not unusual. You're being helped by... What's his name? I just want to hear you pronounce his name.
Paul Deschamps.
By Paul Deschamps?
Paul Deschamps.
Because that just sounded like For the Room. Paul Le Chambre.
Helps his friend Pierre.
Do we have a second name for him? Or
Yeah, we do.
we're not going to get to it.
Smith.
Huret. Huret.
Okay.
Pierre Huret. It's my expert French. You're welcome.
And so this week's competition is try and guess how that's spelled.
Apologies to our many listeners in France.
Yes.
That was like, now you've got to work out the link.
Sure.
Yeah. This week's strange link
Moving swiftly on.
is tarot a French word? Yes, it is. Oh, so we have our link. So this week I had my tarot cards read. Is that the right phrase?
Your tarot, did someone read
your
their tarot cards for
Someone
you?
read tarot cards for me. Is that right?
It still just sounds
I
like
was
someone's
just-
reading
yeah, I
something
was
in another room because
Yeah.
you couldn't be bothered.
So I had a tarot card reading done.
Yes, that'll do it. Yes.
Fantastic. Now I went into this with the science snake firmly wrapped around my neck like an elegant scarf. And I have to admit...
Don't trust it, even folks, even if it's a science snake, don't trust it if it's wrapped around your neck.
and I have to admit, after the 20-minute session, I'd not only flung off the science snake, I had just hook, line and sinker absolutely gone for it. I came out, my entire life was changed and would never be the
My
same.
bank account had been emptied.
Yeah, so much so. Well, not so much so, actually, because it's apparently bad luck to buy yourself tarot cards. But someone then also this week gifted me a set of tarot cards. Now, I would be quite interested in knowing... There were certain things that this chap, who was very good, there were certain things he knew about my life and the past few years and beyond, what I was thinking of doing, the type of person I was. And I went in thinking, well, he's probably going to be able to guess that I'm married because I'm wearing a wedding ring. He'll probably be able to guess certain things about me. I had I was proudly wearing my Hufflepuff badge, and I was proudly wearing my "Though she be but little, she is fierce" Shakespeare quote badge. So there's certain things I thought, he's probably going to say something along the lines of, "Oh, you're creative," or "You're really loyal," because Hufflepuff, that's our thing. So I was kind of prepared for that, and then some of the things.
You're from Shakespearean times and you do magic.
Yeah.
Then I would have been.
You're
impressed.
a witch from the 15th century. I was sort of expecting that, and then he came up with some stuff, and it wasn't somebody with the name beginning with C that could be hundreds or tens.
Well, hundreds begins with H.
Yeah,
It's definitely not C.
but they were very specific. He managed to tell me that my maternal grandmother had died when I was little, relatively unexpectedly, which she did, and that the rest of my grandparents had lived much longer. Lots of things about my personal situation. So it was very, I came out just fully willing to sign my life over to him, tell me how to live my life from here on out. But
she's now run away with him and getting married next week.
And we are living in a hobbit hut. Not just yet. But what I did do is
we're leaving it open.
Let's not.
You didn't give him his number, but that's okay because he probably knows it.
He probably knows already. But I thought that as I have tarot cards, perhaps as we also have a guest this week, I thought perhaps I could do a tarot card reading. Excellent. And maybe read up on what the phrases are for this sort of activity, and we could see what comes up, because I know you've actually had your cards read before.
Yes. Who has had their cards read before? Because people on the podcast won't know that you're looking at him.
Oh yes. So Matt Ferriman, our guest this week, you have had your cards read before, haven't you?
Yes, I had my tarot cards read when I was at university. I was drunk, as was the lady reading them.
Oh.
However, she said that she had
control reading.
She said that she had done it a very long time, and I was in my second year of a performing arts degree, so obviously
the tarot reading, right? She'd been doing for a long time.
Yes, sure. As opposed to the drinking, which she had been doing a lot longer by the looks of things. But of course, I believed that the entire world revolved around me, so I thought, well, I'm better than this. So I false shuffled the cards. I'm right. I know quite a lot about close-up magic with cards and things like that. Yeah. So the top few cards stayed exactly the same as they were when she gave them to me. And yet she turned them over and she read me. And this is exactly me. This is everything about me. And then my roommate, who is the opposite of me, got hers read. And I was like, this is also about me. They're all about me. So it made me think, well, hang on, maybe if they're all about me, then none of them are about me.
Or maybe just everything is about you.
Or maybe just everything is about me.
Yeah, maybe you're not a narcissist. Maybe you just are the centre of the universe.
Maybe.
We've never done a podcast before. We've only done this because we love you so much.
You had to quickly make the others before so you had proof.
Just because we knew you were coming.
Oh. So, what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm going to be keeping an eye out
is not shuffle the cards by the sounds of it.
Shuffle the cards. Although actually, the way I'm doing it, it's not the first few cards that I'd be using anyway.
Because the way she's doing it is going onto your Facebook profile, finding out all the information about
everything
you.
I can. Now that is the thing. I think it's fair to say, Matt, that you and I are friends, if I may.
Well, I mean, if you'd be so bold to say so, I guess.
And so
it's
there
when
are
he turns around and goes,
things...
well, you might think that. But,
let's see what the cards say.
And so there is quite a lot I know about your life. So what I'm going to be doing is doing a reading and just telling you what those cards represent and see if they just make sense to how you're...
I don't know if the audience can hear the shuffling that's going on.
I'm trying to do it for effect.
But, as somebody who has worked for various magic companies, I can confirm there was no false shuffling there.
I was being very grown up and sensible.
I've worked for Marvin's Magic. I don't know if that makes me an expert.
I think so.
Shuffling technique.
So now if you cut the deck in half...
Okay,
please.
I'll just use that.
As he removes the scissors and cuts the cards.
And then if you could cut the deck you have in
the second half
in half again.
There is now various hands with cards everywhere.
Those to me.
He's now passing basically what was the sort of middle section of the pack over to Dani.
Yep.
And if you could cut that pack the other half.
Oh, now cutting
into
the
half
first
again.
pack that was cut, giving us... Which section are we now looking for?
So now the top half first, please.
I feel like I should point out that I am a card-holding middleman. I don't know if that interferes with
Oh, you're going to put your voodoo...
my voodoo stamp on it.
Now, I am not an expert at this, so you will have to bear with me a little bit because I will be just checking my instruction manual.
Yeah, as Gypsy Rose Dani peers into the future, you may hear the sound of rustling pages as she checks out what that says.
What it means.
We're going to get a whole load of people writing in telling you what your reading really was.
No, what we're going to get is people writing in saying, that's not how you do that.
So as far as I'm aware, this is where, and I do apologise to people who do this for real or know much more about it. I'm doing this purely from an enthusiastic sort of admirer position.
For those of you who are listening to this, there are several ways of doing it. And there's
Tarot readings, that is.
There is. Yes. A lot of people will be familiar with the cross version, which you'll have 5 cards. How many cards are you drawing here?
So I'm going to show 3, and then this is what I think he referred to it as the flop, but maybe that's just because I've played poker.
It is pretty much, yes.
But I'll be turning over 4 main cards, and they'll be leading me, and then I'll be spreading out what's left in this.
Now, are you using the full pack of major and minor arcana cards, or are you using the sort of the picture cards?
So I am using the picture cards.
Okay.
The world famous 78 card deck with the traditional Tudor rose that was a feature of the first 1910 deck.
Okay.
That's just off the top of my head, not read from the box.
This would be classed as a major reading, then not a minor reading where you just use a small amount of cards.
Oh, okay.
Hardcore.
So this is major.
Okay.
Okay, so
This is my
she's going to perform
plan.
major hardcore on you.
Okay.
So the first card is your past, represents your past. The Knight of Swords.
Ooh. Whatever it means, it looks pretty badass.
So, Knight of Swords, a soldier, man of arms, satellite, heroic action predicted with soldier, skill, bravery, capacity, defense. So maybe you've been quite brave in your past.
You used to
or
be.
it also says...
Now you're just a big wuss.
It also says dispute with an imbecile person.
Well, my brother is a bit of an imbecile.
So yes, that's your past.
But now we have to look at that card. Is it the right way up or is it inverted?
It's the right way up.
That's fine then. Because inverted can often mean the opposite.
Inverted there is a different...
it's not very far in the past, but I feel I should point out Matt has recently taken on a theatre role of a knight as well.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
That's true.
There are many dots that Tom will connect on my behalf.
You're welcome. I'm not going to be happy unless you walk away an absolute paranoid mess.
Okay.
Okay, so your present 1, 2.
You've turned
There's so many seconds I've got left.
You've turned over
9.
the herpes card. And
The 9 of Swords. So interestingly, another swords card.
it's been degraded from the knight to the 9.
And that's ecclesiastic, a priest.
And silence.
Okay. No, sorry, I was just thinking. So reversed, which it's inverted, and that is at the moment you feel somewhat imprisoned. You have quite a few doubts at the moment, reasonable fears and suspicions.
That's understandable. You're locked in a room with 3 people.
So there's that.
Right.
So that's your present.
Okay.
The Queen of Cups.
I do like cups.
Well,
And queens.
And queens,
and
why not?
queens. And something else.
That'll probably
It's not
be
the
future.
No, it's not the future because this is your future.
Okay.
It's the TARDIS card.
So I'll have a look at that because I can't now find the order in which the...
We now go to intermission.
So
Why not? Get yourself some popcorn.
okay. Oh no, sorry, I'm wrong.
Okay.
So the first signifies you and your attitude.
So what? Sorry. So my
so
attitude means
you're-
that I'm the imbecile.
No.
You're the
this
brave
is the
person who
Knight of
argues
Swords.
with
Oh,
the
brave.
heroic
imbeciles.
one.
Okay. That's
The second
Now, just like to point out
signifies
is what you think about yourself.
Well,
the second signifies your house, your environment, your influence, people and events around you.
And that was...
And that was the 9 of Swords. That was the doubt and suspicion and
imprisonment.
imprisonment.
You live in a prison.
Yes.
Okay.
And the third signifies your hopes and fears. And the fourth represents what will come.
Okay.
So these are your hopes and fears. So the Queen of Cups, interestingly enough, inverted again. So the Queen is a good, fair woman, honest and devoted, which is
and she's
that's
upside down.
the Queen, and she's upside down. Good woman, otherwise distinguished woman.
And this is
a
his,
rich marriage.
This
so
is
that's
his
your
fears.
hopes and fears.
Okay, so like
So presumably
So am I
your
scared of marriage, or do
so
I want
maybe
to marriage?
Maybe you want marriage, but you're scared of marriage.
Right,
I don't know,
okay.
so-
with an upside down woman.
Scared of commitment, but you'd like a good rich marriage.
A good rich marriage, or I'm scared of wanting a rich
Just putting
marriage.
that out there.
Yeah.
Well, you want to
Or I want to be scared of a rich marriage.
Yeah, maybe you want
So
to
many
be scared
possibilities.
of
You're
marriage.
scared.
It's as if these cards are open-ended.
You'll be pretty brave about it, but then you're going to feel trapped and doubtful.
Oh dear.
Okay,
In
so
the
you're
prison that you
fourth,
live
and
in.
In
this
the prison
so
that I
this
live
is
in.
about your future. Oh, hello, she's naked.
Oh yes.
So we
So the
have
upside down queen who's rich is going to get a kit off for you.
so the
Danny's
star.
sort of spreading a load of cards across the table.
It's almost like she knows what she's doing.
It's almost dangerously close.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the star for what's to come. Hope and bright prospects. So this is good.
Right.
Now you have an ace in here, and that's good. So the ace signifies positivity, and that's
Okay.
further along. So
Which is pretty good because the other three are
the
really
star,
bad.
and the star suggests that in your future you have bright prospects.
I'm going to put this on my CV.
The, the Tower, the Devil, and Death. Now this suggests together. This does suggest that there'll be some distress, which is predestined, but not for this reason evil. It will end. So something. So there'll be some distress in something that's predestined, but it will lead to an end of something, and you have a bright future.
Okay, so a bit like a rom-com.
So yes, you're ready. So
Join
you've
us
got
for
the
next
Knight of
week's
Swords.
episode to see if this has come true.
You are a heroic person, and you
lives in a prison.
feel at the moment like you're a bit imprisoned. So you feel a bit trapped at the moment, maybe. But there is a particularly good woman in your hopes and dreams. But to get to that bright future, for some of your imprisonment and trappedness to end, as it were, there will be some distress, but it's predestined distress. And then you will go on to this new beginning.
But could you not
That's-
argue that
that's-
all distress is either predestined or not destined in any way?
If you want.
If you want to argue
I
that for a minute. Yeah,
know
no one will
that you're
stop you.
probably not the best person to ask questions to as you're learning as you're going along.
Mm.
But I feel tarot cards are just a bit too
Vague.
open and vague, far too
They
vague.
are very vague. But do you know what I think they're really good for, having now been on this side of it? So he was maybe reading my reactions and filling in the blanks. Now, there were certain things he said to me that I really don't understand how he could have known. Unless it was a really lucky guess, but you think, isn't it a bit risky? When you can be this vague and let people take from it what they want to take from it. Because you go into a reading and you're kind of thinking, well, this is what I'm thinking about, this is what I'm... and he said to me, you know, after he did this reading, he then said, do you have any questions? And so I could ask questions and he'd look at the cards and say, okay, well, this is what I think from this reading. And so if you say, for example, oh, my pet's really ill, will they make it? You go, probably not. Death card. And also you could say that because pets don't live as long as humans, so chances are, yes, they're going to lose their pet in their lifetime. So I think there's a certain amount of, you have to be good at reading people, be good at picking up.
Well, that's,
what
I
they
mean,
want
it's
to hear.
specifically called that. It's called cold reading. You can do a thing called cold reading, and you can do a thing called hot reading, where hot reading is where you already got information about somebody.
Okay.
For example, like we mentioned earlier, you've got all the information off Facebook, or you know them, and so on. So you've got this information there. It's hot reading. Cold reading is where you throw something out there, and you look for the reaction of the person that you're doing the reading to. So if I said, "Oh, I've got a grandmother here, but I'm not sure if you knew them very well," and suddenly your eyes sort of open a bit, it's like, "Oh, right, I'm onto something here."
Yeah.
And then it'll be like, "Oh, she may have died earlier, or she lived somewhere far away, or something, but you didn't see her very often." And then the person comes out of that reading going, "He knew that my grandma died when I was young." The skeptics would go, "It's just pure cold reading," and there'll be so much generic stuff that, like you were saying, so much generic stuff that gets thrown out.
Some
That
of it's
you
bound to
wait
stick.
for something to come back, and when something comes back, you're just honing in on one thing till eventually you can hit something so specific because you've been guided there by the person you're with. And if anybody goes on YouTube, watch Derren Brown in, I think it's Miracles. Is it that one? Or Miracle Worker or something like that. He goes to America because they don't know him there and proves that he is. One of the bits is where he proves he's a psychic. One is where he proves he's a medium. Another one he proves he's been contacted by aliens. And all these experts say, yeah, he knows he's absolutely, and he is the best, absolutely by far the best person I've ever seen do it.
Really?
But if you watch some of the American TV shows, we'll just legally run this through my head now so we don't get sued. There's one particular guy who says so many things in its first 30 seconds. And he'll come on and just go, I'm getting Jay and John or James or Jeremy, something J. It might be July, it might be June or January, and the number 4. There's a 4 or 40 or 14, 4 like that, and you just suddenly it's like, okay,
my brother James was born in January.
Yeah,
January the 4th. Oh wow!
And if he's in the studio with 100 people sat there,
it's going to make sense
somebody,
to at least some of
somebody
them.
will click
Especially the ones, and I have to admit, I was really, really halfway through the reading, almost yearning to hear certain things.
Yeah, I thoroughly recommend doing it to anyone because it is quite an interesting experience.
And actually, it's a way of sort of answering questions you've got in your mind that you don't necessarily know, and you can make decisions because you have
It's
those
cheaper
natural
than a psychiatrist.
instincts. Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think that's what I would
Absolutely.
find really interesting to know is the depth to which, just as simple as a self-reflexive tool where you're being led by somebody else but in a relatively passive way because they're teasing kind of questions out of you, whether it is actually there's a positive process, whether it's paranormal or not, there's a positive process in being helped to self-reflect and sort of engaging with things
and
taking.
Talked before about Ouija boards, that's what they were. They were a method of communicating with your subconscious and self-reflection as a psychological tool rather than as a demonology tool. And certainly, as I said, when the psychics that are doing it, they're using the cards as a way of focusing whatever questions you want rather than the cards actually answering. It's getting out of you the answers.
Well, what I'll do is I'll go away and I'll buy a lottery ticket
And 9 swords.
and 9 swords. And over the next couple of weeks, I'll make note of anything of note that happens and send it in, and you guys
And you
can
come back.
read a
You come back and
statement.
talk to
I'll
us.
come back and talk to you.
I'm gonna move us on at that point because
No problem.
we could spend a whole session easily, I think, chatting about this, and I'm really keen that we not only hear from Ross, paranormal expert, but we also get directly to our special guest this evening as well, who I think is going to chat to us a little bit about something as well.
I can do a proper link and everything for this one.
Goodness,
Where did you have your tarot cards done?
In Brighton.
Wow, you were in Brighton?
I was!
Oh, wow. I know some stories about Brighton.
You don't say.
I do say. Whereabouts in Brighton did you go? Did you see anything interesting in Brighton?
Well, we went shopping.
And where did you go shopping?
There's a shopping centre called Churchill Square.
That sounds vaguely familiar to stories I know of. Possibly because I told you about it on the phone whilst you were there.
Yeah.
There is a strange ghost that's reported there that may attack you. So if you are in the Churchill Square, what you've got to do, if you see, randomly forgotten his name now. The name
Angry
is
Mick.
Angry Mick, but he's got another name as well, and it's to do with having a big belly. Anyway, if you see out of the corner of your eye a strange-looking man whose shirt is undone, he's got a big bruised belly, don't look at him.
And the shirt's slightly too short, isn't it? According to...
And reports have said he's slightly floating above the ground level as well. But if you look at him, he gets really, really angry and comes charging towards you and tries to attack you. So either you've been attacked by a drunk in Brighton, the shopping centre, or you're about to be attacked by a ghost. Now, interestingly, this ghost has never been seen on camera, but people have reacted to it, and that's been filmed on camera. So the security guards have seen people pooing themselves, basically, and running away from something that isn't there. And when they've been asked about it, they've all come up with the same thing. So that's one you can do, because that's free. You can just go there.
You can just go there.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be more expensive if you go into the shopping centre.
I think it's that combined. It's quite a kind of unsettling. It's not like seeing the pristine figure of a young woman looking sorrowful and walking
there is
across
a
the
young
lake.
woman looking sorrowful who's not in a pristine condition. linked to quite a modern haunting along the beach and the pier, West Pier I think it is. But she was seen at the bandstand along King's Road, and there was a group of people. One of the famous stories about her is that a group of people went for a wee, basically, behind the bandstand, and the last guy who went behind there came screaming and running out of there because he'd seen this girl who, and I've got notes here because I want to make sure I say that what he said. Apparently, the ghost is said to be wearing ragged clothing, be very pale with sunken skin. Now they think, because this has happened since the 1990s, and they think it was a homeless girl who died of an overdose in that area, and she's seen wandering about all the way along the beachfront between the pier and the bandstand and everywhere, and she's been seen by loads of people apparently, and sort of sat in if you know the arches on Brighton Beach and so on, they'd be sat in those, and people go over there to check she's okay, at which point she looks up and disappears. So you get to see that one, and that's all times of day as well. It doesn't have to be evening, doesn't have to be whenever. So
I think there's something really creepy about, like, she looks up at you and disappears, and if you get eye contact with angry Mick, then he charges at you. There's something really threatening, isn't there, about because we were looking around, and then we were thinking, do we really want to see this? If you make it's almost like, if you do see it, it's like the weeping angels, isn't it? Don't blink or don't look.
It's such a, I think this is Brighton as well. It's such a joyful kind of
vibrant
celebratory place that the idea of it's a really
a lot of famous sort of dark figures wandering around in Brighton. I mean, in the lanes there's a nun that's been seen by loads of people. Now, did you get to go down the lanes?
Is this the posh lanes or north lanes? The posh lanes or hippie lanes?
Posh lanes.
Yeah. Well, we went.
For those who've never been to Brighton, they're quite. When it says lanes, we're talking very thin,
very
narrow lanes. So seeing something coming towards you that disappears obviously is quite unnerving.
Is this like an alleyway or a road, like a one-way road?
There's quite a lot of alleyways.
Yeah, okay. It's a sort of maze.
It's probably
it feels a bit like being back in sort of Victorian.
Yes, it's probably about the width of maybe a little bit more than a set of double doors, something like that.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and it's actually it doesn't go in one direction and you're at the other end. There are strange bits where you'll realise you're in a kind of T-junction and it goes round in an L shape, and actually you come out in a completely different place to where you thought you were going to.
Right. So you've got a sense of dislocation and lost feeling when you're in there, which can possibly lead to sort of your brain just going, panic, what am I looking at? But a lot of people have seen a nun that wanders around there, and so that just disappears. So that's one you can wander around. I don't necessarily advocate just wandering aimlessly around shopping centres and streets. You might get some strange questions.
But all of these locations are near to each other, like near enough that you can wander without.
To be honest, if you get any strange questions, simply answering that you're looking for a nun is probably not the best way to get yourself out of that situation either.
But if you want to try something that's a bit more sedate and a legitimate reason for being in there, you can always go to the Royal Pavilion, which I'm not sure if anybody else has been there or whatever, but most people have probably seen a photograph of it at some point. It's that building that looks a bit like the Taj Mahal, and Prince Regent lived there for quite a bit. But if you go into it, and you can pay to get in there, there's an old grey lady has been seen. It's not seen that often anymore, but used to be quite famous for it, examining banquet tables. And also the Prince Regent himself is seen to wander about the place because he did absolutely love the place, as he had many a drunken orgy, is what as the history books will tell you. Or another one you could go into is the Brighton Sea Life Centre, if it's still there. I haven't been there for many years.
It is.
Very old building.
Well, several entities are said to haunt that one, including, you've got some really good ones. A Victorian woman, lots of ghosts are described as Victorian women or Victorian children, but a man with a hunchback. So Richard III. So yeah, you've got a hunchback and a Victorian woman, but also strange laughter. Now, this is one that I've been told about, and I find this one a bit weird because strange laughter heard near to the underwater tunnel. Now, the problem with when you've got tunnels and things involved is acoustics can get very, very strange. So I'm not so sure on that one, but I'd certainly like to see the hunchback or the Victorian woman. I've been in there a few times and never seen anything like that.
No, I have to admit I've been in there quite a few times.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that moment where something comes out and you might see this in an area of Brighton. And I go,
I did.
I saw that.
Yeah.
But alas,
we've got
I did
quite a lot
not
of
see
pictures
anything.
from our trip, which we will upload.
We'll look back for nuns. for nuns and hunchbacks.
Now, for those of you who've never been to Brighton or overseas visitors, it wouldn't surprise me if you did see a strange man with a bruised belly with his shirt undone, or even a nun wandering about, or somebody in Victorian dress. It is a lovely, lovely place to visit, but it is full of quite eccentric people that may be wandering around being possessed at various times. Hundreds of haunted pubs, and the place is full of haunted pubs. Pretty much every single pub you'll go to is haunted. And if you go on, I think paranormaldatabase.com, I think it's called, that will give you a long list of pubs you can go to that have ghosts that you might see, so you could go on a haunted pub crawl around Brighton. Now Matt is going to do an amazing thing and link to everything that's happened so far.
It's going to be seamless.
Matthew, down to you.
So, what do you do at night time in Brighton after you finish drinking?
I'm not sure we can broadcast this.
That's a very personal question. Matthew.
Okay, let me
What
ask
did
a
I
less
personally
personal.
do, or what would
Let me
anyone
try
else do?
and think of a cleaner way. Ross, what do you do in bed?
Pretty much the same as what I do in Brighton.
Of course, you sleep,
Yes.
don't we all?
Yes.
Eventually. So the thing that
A chance to dream.
I've decided or been asked to speak about is sleep paralysis.
Oh, right, yes.
Something that isn't necessarily paranormal, but has been the cause of many paranormal stories. Now, I'm very unfortunate, or fortunate, but I think unfortunate in that I suffer from sleep paralysis maybe once or twice a week.
Wow.
It's very often for me, and it's not particularly fun. The first time it happened, I was 18 years old, and I was having a nap with an ex-girlfriend. I remembered waking up in my bed and not...
Was that in Brighton? You were having an ex-girlfriend?
No, that wasn't in Brighton, unfortunately.
As young
shame,
people
that
do,
would've
they
been
just
a
nap
brilliant
in the
Just nap
afternoon.
in the middle of the day. And I woke up, but I couldn't move. I just couldn't move at all. And that was all I saw. And I remember sort of shouting for her to help me.
Could you actually physically talk? Because most
No, she couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
When I woke up, I was very angry.
Yeah.
I was like, why didn't you wake me up? I was quite obviously in distress.
Yeah.
And she said, you were just sleeping. There's nothing different about you. So I did a bit of research. And the most common thing that comes with that is people think they see a ghost or a witch or a demon. And it's usually in the form of a lady, an old lady who will come and sit on your chest. And it stops you from being able to breathe. So, of course, the next time it happened, I was like, oh, this has happened to me before.
You did the worst thing you could possibly do. Yeah.
This is just like when that woman came through. What's that coming through the door? Oh, dear. And I saw something come through the door, and it's evolved since then. So now when I have if it's a particularly bad event, I can see shadows that are moving around in the corner of my eye. I think they're not there. Just don't think of anything more scary. So then the shadow touches me. And then I'm like, well, as long as I can't hear it, and then it starts to scream.
So you're actually having conscious thoughts about this at the time?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because it's happened so often.
You're understanding this is a hypnagogic state. This is not reality. But your brain is still in dream mode, as it were.
So as far as I understand it, what happens is every single night everybody goes to sleep, their brain forces their body to become paralyzed. So in your dream, when you are running, you're not actually running, you're paralyzed. You're just
this in the
bed.
REM stage?
Yes, this is during the dream state. So then after, so the opposite to this would be sleepwalking, where your body isn't paralyzed, but you are asleep, you are not conscious. Whereas during sleep paralysis, your body is paralyzed, but your brain is very much awake, and therefore makes up for what it can't do, what it normally does. So it normally sees. So therefore, you're seeing stuff, and you think you're in the room you fell asleep in, even though I've been sleeping at a friend's house before, and I've had sleep paralysis, and I'm at home, and then I wake up and I'm not at home, and it's very bizarre because I could have sworn I fell asleep at home, but it's it's just your body making up for your mind, making up for your body rather, because it can't see.
I mean, when you're talking about the hagging, as it's often known of the older, what you're missing out is the incubus succubus part of it as well, which particularly in sexually repressed societies, that often leads to the stories of I was raped by a ghostie and so on, and you get these incubus and succubus, depending whether male or female, doing unspeakably enjoyable things to you. Have you ever...
I could pep up your night.
Not wishing any details, has that one ever happened to you?
No, nothing.
Or did
so
you not
lucky.
research that bit and gone, oh, damn, I missed out on that?
Well, now I know what I'm doing. No, unfortunately, I've never had anything like that happen. It's always been malicious.
Yeah.
But that's just my own head. That's
it's always a malicious thing with incubus. It's not a pleasant experience.
Okay.
No,
So, I stick to the meta. I've
had it. I mean, you get hypnopompic and hypnagogic. One's when you're falling asleep, because it can happen as you're falling asleep or as you're waking up.
Yes.
And I've had the one where you wake, and it is absolutely terrifying.
It is. And I think it's more terrifying when you wake up with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you do go to sleep, it's not nice, and then you sort of wake yourself up and you move around in your bed and it's gone. But when you wake up, you think you have woken up.
Yes. Yeah.
They do say, if there is anyone listening that does suffer, or if you ever have it might happen to you once or twice.
Or if you've fallen asleep listening to this podcast. And now
the best way to get out of it, there are 2 ways that work for me, but obviously, 3 ways that work for me, but everyone else may find their own. One is to try and wiggle your fingers.
Yep.
That slowly helps you come back. The other is to blink. And the other one, which comes with a hazard warning, so everyone, look after yourselves, but works all the time for me, is to hold your own breath.
Right.
So as soon as you hold your breath, your body goes, something's not right. And somehow, even though you're not speaking, when you speak in this state, you do breathe.
Yes.
So if you hold your breath, then you are actually holding your breath.
The fingers one, it's actually better to do it with your toes, because a natural thing is to move your fingers around. So if you're scared, you might be waving your hands about and trying to keep away. Moving your toes is kind of such an unnatural thing to do that your brain just goes, what are you doing? What's going on here? And it suddenly clicks back in and goes, oh, this isn't real. No. In fact, there are famous paintings going back in Renaissance paintings and so on, and I'm trying to remember it now. I think it's called The Nightmare, and I can't remember who painted it. I'm sure somebody out there is now shouting, going, I know what it is, you idiot. Where there's somebody asleep on a bed and there's a little imp demon type thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a horse's head in the background as well.
And there's lots of these kind of tales. And it doesn't take very much to see how they might inspire stories of other worlds and other beings.
Alien abduction is often thought of to be a hypnopompic or hypnagogic state.
Well,
on that note,
on that terrifying. I'm not sure what's more terrifying about that, the sense that it gives a feeling of something paranormal, or the fact that it actually happens to you, Matthew, and that it is something that is genuinely martyr for the cause.
And in 5 minutes you're going to wake up. None of this is real.
And then again 10 minutes later. So, oh goodness me. So on that note, it is goodbye for now from me, your host, Tom Jordan. It is goodbye from
me.
Who are you?
Dani.
It is goodbye from
someone else.
And it's goodbye from
not Sam.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Wake up.